Imagine waking up one day and realizing no one around you questions anything anymore. The world's louder than ever, faster than ever, packed with more information than the brain can hold. And yet, thinking, real thinking, is vanishing. What happens to a society when people stop questioning, stop reasoning, stop reflecting? What happens when we replace deep thought with shallow reactions, real understanding with surface-level noise? In this video, we're going to confront something most people don't want to talk about: the slow disappearance of critical thinking and the dangerous rise of something philosophers now call collective stupidity. It's not about intelligence. It's not about education. It's about how entire groups of people, smart people, can end up thinking in shallow loops, blindly accepting whatever narrative is loudest, most popular, or most comfortable. And by the end of this video, we're going to uncover the most important truth of all, one that could change everything. Whether we reclaim our ability to think or lose it entirely, to a system that benefits when we stay mentally numb. Before we dive in, if you're someone who values truth, who still believes in asking the hard questions, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like. Share this with someone who still thinks. Because what you're about to hear isn't easy, but it's necessary. Let's begin with something uncomfortable. Thinking is hard, and today, it's discouraged. The world doesn't reward thinking anymore. It rewards speed, emotional reactions, conformity. That's not some glitch in the system. That is the system. Algorithms show you what you already believe. Schools teach memorization, not exploration. And society, whether it means to or not, pushes us further and further away from independent thought. Decades ago, Noam Chomsky warned us this would happen. He called it the manufacturing of consent. A world where people are trained, yes, trained, to consume, obey, and never question. Because once people stop questioning, they become predictable, and predictable people are easy to control. Critical thinking, once considered a cornerstone of human development, is now seen as inconvenient. It slows things down. It disrupts echo chambers. It dares to ask, but is this really true? And in today's climate, asking that question, it's practically rebellious. So how did we end up here? Let's start with one of the root problems: information overload. According to neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, the average person today processes 5 times more information per day than just a few decades ago. We're hit with a tsunami of notifications, updates, headlines, comments, ads, every waking moment. And the human brain? It wasn't built for that. When the brain is overwhelmed, it cuts corners. It stops evaluating. It stops thinking. Instead, it relies on mental shortcuts, biases, assumptions, groupthink to get through the noise. This is where social proof comes in. Ever seen a post with thousands of likes and thought, well, it must be true? That wasn't logic. That was a psychological shortcut. And it's one of the main reasons collective stupidity spreads so easily. It's not that people are dumb. It's that we're all being conditioned to follow signals instead of using reason. But that's not the only issue. Another silent killer of critical thinking? The decline of reading, especially deep reading. Neuroscientist Marianne Wolf says our brains are being rewired by digital media. We skim, we bounce between tabs, we lose focus in seconds. But critical thinking? It requires attention, focus, stillness. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you read a full article without checking your phone? When was the last time you paused to actually think about something instead of instantly reacting. Those little habits, they're vanishing, and with them, our ability to think clearly. Carl Sagan once warned, "We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology." His fear wasn't just ignorance, it was the loss of critical thought. Because when you don't understand the system you're depending on, you're vulnerable to it. The truth is, in a world driven by outrage, opinion wars, and online noise, the quiet act of thinking clearly is revolutionary. But this problem runs even deeper. It's not just technological or educational, it's emotional. Thinking critically is uncomfortable. It means you might be wrong. It means letting go of certainty. It means confronting beliefs you've held for years and asking, "What if I've been mistaken?" That's scary. And in a culture obsessed with confidence and identity, that kind of mental humility feels threatening. So what do? We shut down. We repeat mantras. We retreat into our echo chambers. We defend what we believe, even when it doesn't make sense, just so we don't have to face the discomfort of doubt. We've traded dialectic, the kind of honest back and forth that built Western philosophy, for slogans and cancel buttons. And the cost? Mass manipulation, propaganda, blind obedience. When people stop thinking, they stop questioning. And when people stop questioning, they become easy to control. And here's the question that should make all of us pause. Who benefits when a population no longer thinks for itself? Stay with me. Because what we're about to explore next reveals just how deep this problem runs, and why reclaiming your ability to think clearly isn't just a personal decision, it's a moral responsibility. Let's look at where this decline actually begins. The system that shapes your mind before you even know it. The education system. John Taylor Gatto, an award-winning teacher who became one of its loudest critics, said this: "Schools don't really teach anything except how to obey orders." That's a heavy claim. But when you look closer, it tracks. Modern schooling didn't emerge to produce free thinkers. It was designed during the industrial age to create workers. Obedient, efficient, predictable workers. People who follow rules, memorize what they're told, don't ask too many questions, and stay in line. And even today, from elementary to college, students are still rewarded not for how they think, but for how well they can repeat. Curiosity is treated as a distraction. Original thought? Seen as a risk. And over time, that message gets internalized. Follow the rules, don't stand out, stay inside the lines. But it doesn't stop at school. In the workplace, in media, even in friendships, we learn that speaking up, especially when your thoughts challenge the crowd, can cost you. People stay silent not because they don't care, but because they've learned that questioning the norm comes with punishment. But here's the problem. Silence becomes complicity. Psychologist Erich Fromm once wrote about this in his book Escape from Freedom. He explained how many people actually want to surrender their freedom of thought, because real freedom isn't comfortable. Real freedom comes with responsibility, and responsibility can be terrifying. To think for yourself means you can't blame others for your ignorance. You can't hide behind, "I was just following the crowd." You're accountable for your thoughts, your actions, your choices. And for many, that's too much. So instead, we choose comfort. We choose distraction. We choose to believe what's easy rather than face the discomfort of truth. But the more we do that, the easier we are to control. And nowhere is that more obvious than on social media. What was once a tool for connection is now a machine for manipulation. Every platform you scroll is engineered to keep you hooked, to keep you reacting, not thinking. You are constantly nudged toward content that confirms your beliefs. You're pushed to comment fast, feel fast, get angry fast. Not because it's good for you, but because it's good for them, the companies profiting from your attention. Social media doesn't reward truth, it rewards engagement. And what gets the most engagement? Outrage, fear, certainty, not reflection, not humility, not depth. Marshall McLuhan, a media philosopher from the 1960s, saw this coming. He said, "The medium is the message." In other words, the way we consume information changes how we think. And today's mediums? They promote speed over depth, outrage over nuanced, certainty over humility. Even truth has taken a back seat. Because in the age of misinformation, it's not about what's true, it's about what's viral. People don't evaluate ideas based on logic anymore. They base them on popularity. If enough people believe it, it must be right. Right? Wrong. That's the tyranny of the majority, not political, but cognitive. So where do we go from here? It starts with something simple, but not easy. Ask better questions, not surface-level ones, not loaded ones, real questions. Questions like, what am I being told to believe? Who benefits from me believing this? What assumptions lie beneath my certainty? How often do I seek out opposing views, not to destroy them, but to understand them? Because here's the truth. The antidote to collective stupidity is not just more intelligence. It's courage. Courage to question. Courage to be wrong. Courage to think, even when it makes you uncomfortable. Socrates once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." That's not weakness. That's power. That's the kind of mental humility we're starving for. Because let's be honest, these days, everyone has an opinion. But how many people actually understand what they're talking about? How many people take the time to sit with complexity? To admit, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn? Very few. And ironically, the ones who do think deeply are often the quiet ones, the observant ones, the ones who aren't shouting in the comments section. Why? Because they understand something fundamental. Wisdom doesn't come from noise. It comes from silence, from thought, from engaging with ideas fully, not just reacting to them. And in today's world, that kind of thoughtfulness is rare, which is why critical thinkers are often ignored, outnumbered, even ridiculed. In a culture that rewards speed and spectacle, the slow, patient act of thinking barely stands a chance. But here's what you need to remember. That doesn't mean it's useless. It means it's needed now more than ever. Because once you give up your ability to think for yourself, you are no longer free. You're a puppet, your strings pulled by politicians, corporations, and algorithms you don't even see. And let's be crystal clear. Those forces aren't imaginary. They're economic, political, and cultural. They're the advertisers that feed on your distraction, the politicians that stoke your emotions to get your vote, the platforms that twist your worldview for profit. But the moment you take back your mind, everything changes. You become harder to deceive. You start seeing through the illusion. You stop being a passive consumer and become an active seeker of truth. And in doing that, no matter how small it seems, you light a fire that has burned through history. In every philosopher, scientist, revolutionary, and quiet truth-teller who refused to stop thinking. So the question is, will you do the same? stay with me, because we're about to go even deeper. We're going to dive into the psychology of it all. Why smart people still fall for false ideas, why your brain is wired to be tricked, and how even the most rational mind can fall into dangerous traps. To truly understand collective stupidity, we need to look inside, at the battlefield within your own mind. Despite everything we've been told, humans are not as rational as we think. We like to believe we make decisions based on facts, logic, and careful thought. But Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman blew that myth wide open. In his book Thinking Fast and Slow, he explains that our brains operate using two systems. System 1, fast, automatic, emotional, it's our default. It reacts, jumps to conclusions, makes snap decisions. System 2, slow, deliberate, rational, it analyzes, it evaluates, but it takes effort. And here's the problem. In today's high-speed world, most people live in System 1. There's no time to reflect, no time to process. So we fall back on mental shortcuts, heuristics, stereotypes, gut feelings, because they're easy. But easy doesn't mean accurate. This creates the perfect environment for manipulation. Marketers know this. Politicians know this. Media outlets know this. So they frame complex issues as simple. They play on your emotions. They repeat messages until they feel familiar. And once something feels familiar, your brain starts to treat it as true. Not because you verified it, but because it's been repeated enough. This is the danger of confirmation bias. Your brain's built-in tendency to seek out information that supports what you already believe and ignore everything else. And unless you're aware of it, it runs your life. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time I read something I disagreed with? When was the last time I really listened to an opposing view? Not to argue, but to understand. When was the last time I changed my mind? If the answer is, I don't remember, you're not alone. This is human nature, but it's also a trap.